Hi everyone. For the last day or so, I've been messing around with this MakerBot Replicator. This is the 5th gen 3D printer from MakerBot, just the replicator. It has, right now I'm just using the stock white filament in order to create some things and kind of experiment with it and see where it might fit in a classroom setting and all that. So I've just finished printing something, but before I get into that, I want to come over here, and the first thing I printed was just this little, is a test piece. It's an example that comes with the MakerBot. It's this little chain link. And what's cool about this, obviously, is that it prints the links together. And it prints them so that, like you couldn't really put this together like this, but it prints them with the layer upon layer. Now this is just an example, but this was one of the first things we printed off of that sample tool, that sample kit that comes with the MakerBot, and it worked pretty well. It was our first print, really my first experience printing. Now I've seen, these things printed before, but it was interesting to kind of see what the process is. Second thing that we printed was, the standard stretchy bracelet also that comes with the MakerBot. And what I liked about this, or what I found interesting about this, I guess, was the pattern that's on the outside. Because I looked at first when I was creating them, I don't know how well you can see that there, but the edges kind of, they look misshapen. Well, that's part of the pattern, and I didn't really realize that at first while I was printing. So that was just kind of an interesting thing. The next thing that I printed actually came from the Thingiverse, MakerBot's online space to share, and it was fairly unsuccessful. This was the beginnings of what turns out to be something like this. And really what happened, because this has so many kind of overhangs, this failed because I didn't use the supports. But what I like about this is I'm able to see, let's see if I can get that to focus a little better. I'm able to see the inside and show the structure that creates that inside to support the thing as it builds it. But this is, so anyway, when I created this little guy with this, basically, when it was creating that overhang down here, this bottom piece right here, it just fell apart. And so, that was a little disappointing, but it was also a good learning experience to, kind of understand how that works. So this was our failure. And then this took about 3 hours to create, and it's just it's a design, it's a pattern. But when I used the supports, I had to cut away, and you can still see some of the thing that I didn't get out so well, but I had to cut away a lot of the material that was surrounding in between these that provides the support for the plastic as it's extruded out and creates this shape. And so that was an interesting experience, but it worked reasonably well, and we got through it. What I would say, what I did learn from that, is that essentially anytime that you have anything that kind of has that overhang that's more of a block, as opposed to, these guys over here, the bracelet and the chain, those were, closer to the ground and could just build up layer by layer. With this, it's just a little bit different, and it takes a little more time to understand, and really those supports are pretty crucial to create that. Now, what's kind of a drag about that is also those supports also take up more of your filament and more of your material. So, I, being from a school district and thinking about it in terms of material usage and consumables and just budget, that's, that can get tough. So I guess what I'm thinking is you have to really plan what it is that you need. I think the MakerBot does a great job of providing those supports, and they're pretty flimsy, and it's just enough support so it will cool in the right shape. But even this, as I look at this, let me find the right view, you can see that there's some there's definitely, I guess, it's not a smooth, it's not a smooth surface. So I don't know if that's something that I did, but it's something that I'll definitely be looking at later. From there, we went to a snowflake pattern, and the reason I'm using the snowflake pattern, I'm going to have 3 of them, is basically the different resolution settings. So this is the lowest resolution setting, and you can see, if I can get it to focus right, you can see that there's lots of let's call them imperfections in the actual print. And I know that's because it's the lowest resolution. There, now you can see it pretty good, but you can see, like right down here, you can see all the way through it. And that's okay, because this is more for like a prototype thing. But I wanted to see what the resolution was for each of those, what the different resolution cases were. So in this case, this is the lowest resolution. This also took 45 minutes to print. Okay, with a raft, and I'll talk about rafts in just a second, but with a raft, it took about 45 minutes to print. It also broke when we took the raft off. So, that's just something. It could have been our carelessness, but it also could be that's part of it. It's just a little more brittle. Moving over to the next one. This one is definitely a higher quality. There's still some spots that you can see through and all that, but it definitely filled in a little better. This is the regular resolution. This is what you would normally print from. When you set something up. And like I said, I got these off of Thingiverse too. But as I printed these, this is the normal resolution. This took 1 hour and 15 minutes to print this, and I think it's a pretty good print. It's pretty solid. I used a raft for this one too. And then the next one, the highest resolution, is actually what just finished here. And so I'm about to take this off and just see what happens. And I'll take the raft off as well. And so, just in case you're unfamiliar, the raft is this supporting material that's underneath. And what happens with the MakerBot is it creates that raft so that it supports everything that's there. So the entire bottom of this snowflake has a raft under it. Now, what I'm planning to do next is do this without a raft and see what happens. I'll print this, probably just the normal, just to see what happens, to see if this blue tape, the blue painter's tape is really what that is, if that protects it enough in order to really do a good job with the print and not need that. I think from what I've read online, there's definitely times that you want a raft, but rafts, they're kind of a pain, because you do have to take them off, and you do have to it does take more materials. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to just pull this out of the MakerBot. This whole tray will just slide right out, and I'm going to put it down on the table here, and I'm going to use a putty knife to try to take this off, just to see what the how well it will work, and how I can do it with the raft, and then try to get the raft off. So all right, so I have a helper here. Molly is helping me out. Say hi, Molly.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to just try to take this snowflake off, but you can see right here, this little hole in the tape was where we, when we took this off last time with the putty knife.
Failed.
Yeah, we tried and failed. You're right, Molly, and we kind of dug into that. So I'm going to see if I can do a better job this time. Molly's holding my camera for me, so I can try to get this off without messing up either the tape or the design. Initially, oh, there I did it.
Yay.
Initially, I tried when I was taking this off. I was trying to use my fingers and pry it off, and that's just not a good solution. But you can see that the tape worked well. This is the back of the raft. This is really what provides that structure, that support for the bottom of it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pry off the raft. And really I'm just going to try to put my putty knife between here and get this raft off. Move this, don't. Okay, now you can kind of hear breaking that seal as we go through. But I really want to try to get this off without breaking it. And like I said before, I was just trying to peel it off. Very similar to this. You know, I just pull and break. And I'm pretty sure that's how we broke the last one. So this time I'm going to try to be a little bit more careful and try to really get underneath there with the putty knife, as opposed to, you know, using my fingers, breaking fingernails, etc., etc. What I am finding here is that at this higher resolution, this is a lot harder to get this raft off than the last raft. I'm imagining that it has more to do with the resolution and the fact that, you know, it just used more. You know, the resolution, just like pictures, basically means how many lines you have on each of your, you know, how far apart those lines are. So like with pictures, it's dots. But in this case, it's the lines of plastic that are being put down. So it's cracking, but in order to really see how well this printed out, I really do have to get this raft off. There we go, now it's coming. And just, you know, as I look at it, just without much else, it seems like this is a much better print, and it should be really, than the other ones. Yeah, it really is. It's pretty amazing the difference between those. So you can see there is no place on here that you can see through. Like, it's really, really solid. And so, you know, as we turn it over on the back, it's consistent across both sides. This, you know, like, if I guess as I'm thinking about this, if I'm looking for a high quality print or kind of a finished product print, this is the one that I'm going to use. As I look back at some of these other ones, you can also see, it's hard to see I'm sure, but you can also see that there's some strings that go between the different things. I'm not seeing that so much on here. I don't know if that's because of the, I guess there's a few of them, but I don't know. I think that's probably because the path was a little stronger, or maybe it just did a better job because it was putting down a smaller layer each time. But this is a really, really nice print. It's pretty fantastic as I look at that. And then, you know, this is the difference between, here's my new print and here's my first print. This is the lowest resolution. And the difference is pretty amazing. I don't know, you probably can't see that very well on the video, but the difference really is pretty significant. So, like I said, our next little experiment here is we're going to make another snowflake, and we're going to make it just normal quality, but we're going to use it without a raft. So I'm going to get rid of this thing, put this directly on the tape, and see if when I try to pry it off the tape with my putty knife, if that's going to do a very good job, or if I'll break it or what have you. So if you are new to 3D printing, like I said, I've experienced a little bit of it, but if, you know, this is really the first time I've spent a lot of time with. If you're new to this, you know, I hope that helps you, and you know, we'll see what comes of the different things we make in the future. All right, so as you can see, the last snowflake has now printed, and in this one we didn't use a raft, and so it just finished. There's the raft from the last one, and so you know, basically this time was to try to see what happens when you don't use a raft. So I'm going to pull the tray out again, and I'll bring it over here, and I'm going to give the camera to my assistant, and she is going to hold this as I just pry this off. So again, the raft that we used before, this is meant to basically buffer it and provide support for the object while it's being printed. But when it's something flat like this, I'm not sure that we need to have the raft. So we're going to see how this does in terms of getting it off without breaking or what have you. It's adhered pretty good, but it seems to be, yeah, that came off really easily. And this print is pretty good. Now I know you probably can't see this very well here, but this side is really smooth. Whereas in the past, when it's been on the raft, it's not quite as smooth as this. So this is actually really impressive. Just the way that has done directly on the board, and on this side, I think you can see there's some more texture. So yeah, I think that what it comes down to is when it is a flat object like this, the raft that doesn't need support, I don't know that the raft really is needed, because that came off really pretty easily. So that's what I have for now. We'll see what comes as I continue to experiment with the MakerBot Replicator, and we'll just see what comes of this, because I'm not going to include that